Welcome everyone to my review of Archie Sonic issue 98 and the adaptation of Sonic Adventure 2. Kinda. Unlike the Sonic Adventure adaptation, which ran for 6 issues and a Sonic Super Special, this is the one and only issue that'll tackle this game. At the time of its release, that is. Here's the reason why. According to an interview Sonic Stadium did with Ken Penders 20 years ago, the issue was planned to come out a week after SA2 the game. And of course, Sega wanted to promote it. That was a problem since at this point in the comic's publication history, it was just the main Sonic comic. The Knuckles comic was cancelled prior to the Sonic Adventure adaptation, as I mentioned in a previous video, and since then, the Sonic Super Specials came to an end. The Archie Sonic staff wanted to put the SA2 stuff in its own special, but Archie wouldn't allow it, so into the regular issue it went. Now this was 2 issues before issue 100, the SA2 adaptation forced them to adjust some things, and since they were working with what Sega gave them, they essentially turned this issue into a longer version of the Sonic Shuffle adaptation. Show what you can, get to a stopping point, and tell readers if you want to experience more, play the game. It is what Sega wanted after all, to promote its product. So let's go ahead and see what kind of material they packed inside this regular sized comic. We start with a flashback to what happened after the end of issue 85. That issue, if you remember, was the Sonic Adventure epilogue where Eggman sent Silver Sonic 2 as revenge towards the heroes. Sonic defeated it, and Nate Morgan rebuilt it to act as Station Square's protector. It chased Eggman out of the city. We now see that the chase continued into the jungle. Eggman got away by sheer luck when he fell into a hole. Silver Sonic 2 assumed Eggman's gone, and leaves. Eggman's luck continued as beneath the hole was an abandoned lab that belonged to his grandfather, Professor Gerald Robotnik. What a happy coincidence. And yeah, I know Eggman's from another universe, but for the sake of simplicity, we're gonna treat him and the original Robotnik as the same here. I mean, the comic series does from time to time. Anyway, Eggman found his grandfather's diary, which contained information he can use against Sonic, as well as a nearby occupied capsule. Because of the complexity of this plan, he'll need time to get everything in order. Plus, there's all that stuff with the Overlanders he'll have to deal with soon. We jump ahead to a week before present day. The capsule's occupant is out and is robbing the Station Square Bank. Not of its money, but its Chaos Emerald. Silver Sonic 2 tries to intercept the thief, but since the thief is none other than Shadow the Hedgehog, it stood no chance. With the help of the Chaos Emerald and Chaos Control, Shadow destroyed the robot. The authorities investigated the wreckage and the bank footage and presented their findings to the president. He thinks Shadow is Sonic due to seeing the latter in action months ago during the Chaos incident. I mean, what are the odds of 2 fast hedgehogs running around? He hired a treasure hunter named Rouge the Bat to find the emerald while he deals with the supposed thief. Jumping ahead to the day before the present, we see one Commander Hugo Brass pinpointing Sonic's location. He orders Paladin Team Sigma Alpha 2 to go out and capture the Hedgehog. Which finally brings us to present day. Specifically, the end of Sonic's story from the last issue. Sigma Alpha 2 surrounds Sonic and demands his surrender. Sonic's not going down without a fight. First, he disarms the squad, and when they decide to go physical, only Sonic remains standing. It takes the team's helicopter firing an electric net to finally knock out Sonic. Sonic, now in handcuffs, regains consciousness, and is forced onto the helicopter bound for the city. He takes advantage of a loose screw nearby, which results in the following.
Sigma Alpha 2 heading due south over the city. We're en route. Everything's a go.
This is Control Tower. We have you on radar. Report cargo status of captured Hedgehog aboard. Over.
That's a 10-4. Cargo secured on board and... What?
Didn't copy that.
Hedgehog
Over.
is gone. He's taken out everyone aboard and...
What's wrong?
What in the
Come
world?
in. Over.
Freeze! What do you think you're doing? Get that Hedgehog!
Talk about low-budget flights, no food or movies. I'm out of here. I like running better.
Sonic escapes by snowboarding down the street, grinding rails, and doing some platforming in general. Gun, the organization hired to hunt down Sonic, won't give up that easily. They send a big old military truck to chase down Sonic. This is, unfortunately, where the story ends. As I mentioned in the intro, they provide just enough material to get readers interested in the game. A caption on the bottom right corner tells the readers to pick up Sonic Adventure 2 the game to see where things go next. The second story features Eggman's aforementioned grandfather, Professor Gerald Robotnik, on board the Space Colony Ark many years ago. He's getting ready to put the final touches on his ultimate creation, something that can help fight against disease and even death, something that his granddaughter Maria can benefit from. He awakens the test tube subject just as Maria appears on the monitor. She lets her grandfather know a Station Square military craft is approaching the Ark. Professor Gerald tells her to come to him at once, and he starts making preparations for his newest creation. The military docks on the station with one goal: take whatever's in the tube, aka Project Shadow, for themselves. Professor Gerald insists that Maria and Shadow head for the escape pod. Okay, I need to put a warning here. If you know Shadow and Maria's backstory, you know what's coming, and the comic will have a panel depicting the actual event. There is no blood, but it might be disturbing to some. If you're not comfortable with this upcoming panel, skip ahead to this time. I'll try to work around it when I get to the general thoughts portion. Thank you. Shadow makes it inside, but thanks to a soldier, Maria doesn't. The pod launches before the military can get to it. While they plan to track it, for the time being, they'll have the scientists who created Project Shadow. On Prison Island, the military brought Professor Gerald to show the recovered escape pod, which is empty. Still, that didn't take long. The professor also learns of Maria's death, and once Shadow is captured, the professor will be forced to continue his work. However, he has other ideas. He begins orchestrating his revenge by programming the Ark's Eclipse cannon to strike the world. If anything should happen to him, he will download some biomatter, or is it biodata, into Shadow to carry out his revenge. He also left a microchip containing a detailed record of everything for the one who might follow in his footsteps. Good thing he took all of those precautions because the military is about had it with the guy. Despite recovering Shadow, off panel of course, and acquiring the Project Shadow prototype, they are unable to comprehend Professor Gerald's research, and Professor Gerald is not in a cooperative mood. They decide, rather than let the professor use his research against them, he is to be taken away for immediate execution. Then they plan to seal off Prison Island since without the professor, his equipment is useless to them. Too bad for the military, Professor Gerald has already planted the seeds of his revenge. It's only a matter of time before it bears fruit. And so ends the Sonic Adventure 2 adaptation. I can see why the creative team wanted to keep this adaptation limited to one issue. Trying to work this within the confines of the Archie continuity would be tedious. For instance, they would have to find a way to incorporate Tails and Knuckles, two playable characters in the game mind you, into this. A problem since last issue, the two fought each other, and Knuckles is still overflowing with chaos energy, hence the green color. Bowlers and Penders would have to work together to get them involved in the adaptation, and chances of that happening were next to nil. Remember, the original Sonic Adventure adaptation was a Frankenstein's monster of a narrative consisting of their own styles, ideas, and the stuff from Sega. In this very issue, there's already contradiction between the two stories they've written. More on that in a bit. The story centered around Professor Gerald and Project Shadow was written by Penders. Surprisingly, it's close to the actual backstory in the game. For the sake of simplicity, let's keep the game material limited to just Sonic Adventure 2. We don't want any of that confusing Shadow the Hedgehog game stuff here. Professor Gerald was on the Ark 50 years ago, leading the development of Project Shadow, which was indeed for medical purposes, which included the possibility of immortality. He took the job hoping it'll help his granddaughter Maria, who's suffering from the incurable neuroimmune deficiency syndrome. Eventually, he created the ultimate lifeform prototype, the Bio Lizard, and then Shadow the Hedgehog. things more or less happen as depicted in the story. The military's invasion of the Ark, Maria's death, Shadow's temporary escape, Professor Gerald's imprisonment, and planning revenge for Maria's death, using Shadow as part of the revenge plot, and finally, his execution. The first major difference between the two mediums is, when the military is on the Ark, it appears that Professor Gerald was bringing Shadow to life for the first time. In the game universe, Shadow had existed for a while before Gunn came a-knocking, long enough for him and Maria to form that sibling-like relationship. When the unfortunate tragedy happened, we do feel sorry for these two, and anger at the soldier who did the deed. At least I do. I don't know about all of you. When the event happened in the book, the feeling isn't quite the same. Maria's death is tragic, and I am angry at the Gunn soldiers, and Penders wrote them in a way that really made me mad at them. But I don't feel sorry for Shadow in that he lost essentially a sister. It's kinda like when Penders and his writing partner Mike Kay wrote that story about the passing of Sally's mentor, Jewel Layla. It is sometimes hard to feel a connection when tragedy happens if we're introduced to a character for the first time. I do feel sorry for Shadow in both the game and comic universe in that he was a victim of Professor Gerald's revenge. We can point fingers all day as to who is ultimately responsible. Gunn for coming onto the Ark and ending Maria, and thus causing the professor to go mad, or Professor Gerald, whose experiments have made the government all jittery and sent Gunn to stop him in the first place. The point is, Professor Gerald planned to make the world suffer for the death of his granddaughter, and he reprogrammed Shadow as part of this revenge. According to the game, it involved altering his memories of what Maria's final wish was, going from giving people a chance to kill them all. Maybe that's the biodata Gerald used in the comic. Another difference between the mediums is the revenge itself. Both involve the professor reprogramming the Ark, but in the comic, he wants to use the Eclipse Cannon to blast the planet. In the game, the Eclipse Cannon was merely the bait. When all 7 Chaos Emeralds are placed into the cannon, it would cause the colony to fall onto the planet. And Professor Gerald was thorough, at least in the game. If people tried to stop the drop, the Bio-Lizard would interfere. Makes you wonder. In the comic universe, how did Gunn capture it as well? Finally, there's Gerald's microchip, which I believe is this story's version of the diary. Hey, diaries can be electronic, you don't have to use a book all the time, and being small means it'll be harder to locate by unwanted parties. Final score for this story is a 7, a surprising retelling of Shadow's origin, though Ron Lim's art docks at some points, along with the colorist making Maria a brunette. There is one thing I have to wonder. There's also the odd choice of not showing Shadow in full, considering that we do see him in the first story. In that case, wouldn't it make sense to reverse the order of these stories? Now moving on to the first story, here's where the contradiction between Bowlers and Penders comes in. The professor and all of his research material ended up on Prison Island, which is accurate to the game. However, in this story, Eggman stumbled upon Shadow and the research material while escaping Silver Sonic 2. So unless Eggman was chased all the way to Prison Island, I think Bowlers relocated Professor Gerald's hidden stuff to somewhere outside Station Square. I'm surprised the cat people haven't discovered it. Along with the change in location, the diary Eggman found is a book instead of a microchip. I mean, it is possible that Professor Gerald could have written stuff down in a book too, along with a microchip. While this segment is an interesting way to link this adaptation to the Sonic Adventure one, it came at the cost of how Eggman actually got a hold of Shadow in the game, blasting his way through Prison Island using his Egg Walker. The rest of the story was set up, like how the authorities think Sonic is responsible for the robbery instead of thinking it was a different Hedgehog. At least in the comic, the camera footage was using the colors of the original Game Boy, so the mix-up was understandable, unlike in the game where they had color images of Sonic and Shadow.
Sonic has stolen the Chaos Emerald!
At least Shadow got to do something in his brief appearance. The other new game character, Rouge the Bat, just gets one panel appearance. The rest of the focus was on the President, Sonic, and the team that captured Sonic. Well, this continuity's version, that is. From what little of the adaptation we've seen, it's clear the creators played through at least City Escape to get things as accurate as possible, or at least saw footage of someone playing City Escape, and I think a lot of it has to do with Spaz's art. I'm giving this a 6 mainly due to the incomplete nature of the story. Say what you will about Penders, at least the backstory for Professor Gerald and Project Shadow was finished. Now, despite the story being unfinished at the time of publishing, it's still in continuity with the rest of the Archie stuff. The President, who essentially takes over leadership from the Mayor, along with Commander Hugo Brass and Paladin Team Sigma Alpha 2, would return in a 2-part story, Crouching Hedgehog, Hidden Dragon, where Sonic would have to team up with those guys to solve a problem. Eventually, we'll see Rouge in action in issue 116, where she and Bunny would fight each other due to a misunderstanding. As for Shadow, well, at the time of publishing, the events of Sonic Adventure 2 did happen more or less off-panel, including Shadow's apparent sacrifice. However, he will return in issue 124. I'll talk about it more when I eventually get to that issue, but if you want to know who saved him, aliens. I'm not joking. As I've hinted at in the beginning, we'll eventually see the rest of the Sonic Adventure 2 adaptation thanks to Ian Flynn stepping up and putting it in the pages of Sonic Universe issue 2, many years later. While game elements would be incorporated into future issues, there wouldn't be another game adaptation until issue 160, featuring Sonic Rush. So this is something of an end, for the moment. I will say, while it's fine to tell original stories with video game characters, at the end of the day, they are video game characters, and sometimes honoring the medium they came from is just as important. Thank you for watching, and have a good day. No matter what continuity, the gun truck is out for Sonic's blood.